Bula everyone, and thank you for joining our session today. My name is Shagufta and I'm the Executive Director for the BPO Council. Thank you all for taking out the time to attend this panel discussion today. I will just give you a brief introduction about the Council and the BPO industry before we begin. So Fiji is positioned as a leading business process outsourcing offshore destination for the Pacific region, with Fiji's BPO industry providing for over 5,000 Fijians and their families. This is slated to increase over 10,000 in the next few years. Fiji already has several centers providing BPO services for well-known brands across the globe, whose employees are continuing to serve their clients utilizing a hybrid model with a mixture of work from home and work from office right now during the COVID situation at 50% capacity according to the protocols. The BPO Council currently comprises active members involved in voice technology, call center operations, back office operations, airline reservations, worldwide freight shipping services, building and infrastructure, government, insurance, banking and finance, debt collection, virtual human resources and telecommunications, and much more. Fiji's BPO industry has expanded significantly over the past decade and contributes approximately AUD 66 million per annum to the Fijian economy, and this is expected to triple in the next 3 years. The BPO market in Australia is valued at USD $38 million. If Fiji, for example, can capture, say, 5% of that market over the next 10 years, that would be USD $1.9 billion or FJD $4.2 billion. And that calculates to about 39% of the GDP that we had in 2020. On behalf of the BPO Council, I would like to thank the Fijian government, Ministry of Commerce, Tourism, Trade and Transport, Ministry of Economy, and the Market Development Facility and Fiji Commerce and Employers Federation for their continued support toward our council and the growth of the industry. I would like to now hand it over to our moderator, Mr. Fernando from Fiji Sun, who will take us through the panel discussion. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sagufta, and thank you for everyone for joining us on this exciting topic, which will help us move not only this industry forward, but also the employment sector in this country. An exciting panelist we have, as you can see on the Zoom camera, but quickly go through the list. We have Carol Watkins, who is the president of the BPO Council, who's also the general manager for Centrecom. We also have Fayaz Khan, vice president for the BPO Council, and he is also the general manager for Grey Mouse. Mr. Manoa Kamida is the treasurer for the BPO Council. He's the CFO for Lindis Group of Companies. And Mr. Brad Russell from the Western side, the vice president of the BPO Council, director for BTR Fiji Limited. And the topic of conversation for today is creating employment amidst this pandemic. I think it was exciting news last night when the Honorable Prime Minister announced how the vaccination across Fiji will now become compulsory, especially for the employment sector. And I think this will be a great push for us to help get Fiji back on track. Quickly going through, maybe if I could ask Manoa and Carol, if you could just give us a quick overview of the BPO industry in Fiji for our viewers.
Generally, the services that we provide, Fernando, is generally broken down into two categories. We do contact center services, and this includes, is customer interactions across various channels, managing those interactions across various channels. The primary purpose is to provide customers with efficient and effective technical support, customer service and sales assistance. The other category that we serve is back office services, which involves data management, data entry, payment processing, HR services, etc. We think that Fiji is very, very well positioned to be able to serve, first of all, provide these services to our neighbors, Australia and New Zealand. We're in the same time zone. We're more closer than Asian companies such as the Philippines and India. We've got a fast-growing world infrastructure and communications. Our people are well educated. We're the friendliest people in the world. and we speak English with a neutral accent. So there's a lot going for us to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that have come up as a result of the pandemic. So what's happened in the Asia markets, and especially like India and the Philippines, is because of the lockdowns, people haven't been able to get into work and be able to serve their customers in, for example, Australia and New Zealand. And with Fiji, we know that we've worked well from home. We've even though we've gone into lockdown, we've managed to continue to provide these services. However, what we and as we go through this discussion, we'll discuss some of the challenges that we face. But definitely, I mean, there's huge potential for Fiji here, as Sagupta mentioned. Over 100,000 jobs. The council right now thinks that within the next 5 years, we're well positioned to be able to target at least 10,000 jobs.
Exciting. Thank you. Mr. Kamkamida, please.
Thank you, everybody, and welcome. It's a pleasure to be here and talk about actually what I consider is the next tourism industry in Fiji. As we all know, one of the things the pandemic has taught us is Fiji needs to diversify its revenue base. And we have an industry that's staring us right in the face. Just to reinforce what Sagupta said, she talked about Australia being a $38 billion US industry. And if we peel off 5% of that, that's about 1.9 billion. Which is about 4 million in Fijian, and about 20 to 30% of GDP. So it's of current GDP. So it's a very powerful message. Another thing I wanted to share was, of all countries in the world, the Dominican Republic is an outsourcing country. Their revenue at the moment is 750 million.
Wow.
And it employs around about 100,000 people at the moment. So the potential for the industry is significant. It's genuine. It's not pie in the sky stuff. And I think how this industry positions itself in the next 3 to 5 years will provide some significant opportunity for a small country. In terms of government initiatives, which is really why I'm supposed to be talking, we have to. Firstly, I have to thank government for being one of the things that all businesses need is certainty, and the fact that they have come out directly and said that no jab, no job is in play. Certainly helps everybody. It removes any doubt from business and allows us to conduct business with a bit of certainty. So we have to thank government for that. The second is, to be fair to government, their incentives for taxation have been very good. And just to name a few, if you are in a business process, BPO business, you provided you get the approval through the tax office, I believe. You actually get a 13-year tax holiday, and on top of that, you actually entitled to some duty-free concessions. You can carry forward losses up to 8 years. There's some investment allowances for building renovations. And of course, there's the well-known deductibility that comes from employer super contributions. So these are already in play. The company I represent, Lindes, has come in is to try and request from government for more investor-based incentives. In other words, if you're not necessarily a BPO operator, but want to invest in the infrastructure for BPO operations, there needs to be some incentives around that.
That space.
Yeah, and again, government has been very proactive, and we have made presentations, and we're hopeful that in due time, in the next budget, we will see some incentives similar to the half slip for tourism. We've got tax-free regions already in existence. So that's kind of where the council is, and certainly the business I represent, Lyndhurst, has been pushing it. Why Fiji? I think Carol's talked about the salient points. I just wanted to bring up a couple. One is, we're in the same time zone as Australia and New Zealand, virtually. So Fiji is virtually sort of forget about the sea. We're basically next door, and so the ability of businesses from those two countries to set up BPO operations in Fiji, be on the same time zone, that kind of thing is quite useful and powerful, as opposed to talking to people in Philippines and India. The other thing is, it's obvious, but I have to repeat it. We've got a 99% literacy rate in the country. That's like exceptional. And also Carol touched on the friendliness of the BPO operators in Fiji, which is powerful, but also something that we picked up in our surveys is the natural neutral speaking accent of our operators, our people.
Okay.
And it is a big significant issue when communicating it. The final one, I guess, is the infrastructure. I think we do have good infrastructure on the ground in Fiji. A couple of things that we will try and keep engaging for improvement, but certainly in terms of the business providers, they are quite capable. Some of them actually operate their own BPO type of operations, so they understand the need for reliable communication and that kind of thing. So I mean, in a nutshell, one of the other things about Fiji as a destination is we're not starting from scratch. There is an industry already in existence, and it's really about leveraging it up. If we were talking about an industry that was not in existence, it would be harder to actually create momentum and build. But we already have the line, and I'm sure with the help of everybody on the council, our members, and certainly, our business partners. I can see Sharon on the line. There's an absolute significant opportunity to do something really good for a very small country. So again, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'll hand back to the compare.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kamkamila. Okay, we'll now move forward into our discussion. Pre-pandemic versus post-pandemic. I suppose we're still kind of going through it, but we're working our way out of the pandemic, and which is quite encouraging after the announcement yesterday. How has the industry changed? This question I put out to Fayaz. How has the industry changed?
Okay, thanks, Fernando. And yeah, so I think we are slightly more than a year in this pandemic, and how things were before pandemic and how things are going, now post pandemics. And as I think, Carol, Manwa, and Shagufta, and the announcements that came through last night, I think that has been very encouraging for us. As you know, when the pandemic hit, one of the very big change that happened was people, going to work remotely from home and stuff like that. And now that, like the importance that is given and what the vaccination can bring about, I think that is going to change a lot of things. And what we have seen during this pandemic, and also our fellow panelists will talk about it as well later in the discussion, is that the only thing we have seen is there has been more demand for in our industry, and like it's not just that there has been an increased demand, but there has been an increased demand for diverse opportunities actually. So what has changed is what we were doing, like before the pandemic, has actually, come out bigger in terms of during the pandemic, where we have been getting requests for many other services that we can provide or which we have not been providing previously. So what it has done is actually increased the opportunity that people have in Fiji in terms of employment, where, like we have actually started providing more diverse services, and that is, like going to utilize the qualified people that we have got here. And with the, like with the vaccination announcements, it is going to make our offices more safer. It is going to bring confidence as well in, not just for our staff, but for our business partners across other countries as well, that, like there's not going to be any major impact in terms of operations, as like we have got a very organized, and like we have been following all the protocols. So like it is safe, and it is like bringing that confidence amongst everyone. And we have all, I think, like we have had previous discussions as well, that like all of our members have seen a growth, like from small to big. And we have achieved those growths during this pandemic, where we are not able to even travel, like mostly we have, like we have been winning clients digitally, like through distance, like through various platforms, and through, like e-meetings and all that. And I think now with the vaccine drives that are going on, I think, and like as it becomes like feasible for us to open our borders, imagine what we can do when we can travel. So I think there's a big opportunity, and I think if all the stakeholders like work together, and like keep coming up with the support that we are getting from various like ministries and like our key stakeholders, I think there's going to be a lot of change and a growth, and as Manua and Carol has said, that we're going to like become another big employer in Fiji.
Great, thank you, Fayaz. Okay, this question is for Carol, Brad, and Fayaz again. Maybe I'll quickly start on Brad first. You've mentioned a little bit, Fayaz, thank you for that. How much has your company grown in terms of employment and your customers?
Yeah, thanks, Fernando. So obviously when the pandemic hit, we saw a huge drop in numbers, because a lot of our clients in those days were tourism related. So we're doing reservations and things like that. So we saw about a 20% drop in our full-time employees.
Okay.
By around about August, we were back to where we were. So we turned that around very, very quickly. And then if I fast track to where we're currently at now, we dropped down to 39 full-time team members, and we're currently at 97. So we pretty well doubled what we were before the pandemic. So to be able to do that in a climate that, particularly for ourselves, because we're based over in Nandi, so that, the unemployment rate over here was, the impact on the industry, tourism industry here, was massive. So, to be able to get some people back working like we did was quite encouraging. From a client point of view, so prior to the pandemic, we had 6 clients that were working with us, and that's now grown to 14. So we had 8 new clients join us over the period, and we're currently talking with, there's about 4 or 5 that are out there at the moment that are pretty warm, and I'd say that they will come on board. So yeah, it's very, very, very encouraging.
Great, thank you. Carol? Your mic, Carol, sorry.
Sorry,
okay, no worries.
Thank you, Fernando. We've seen a significant increase in business here at Centacom. We've actually added on since the start of the pandemic, when most companies have been reducing their workforce, we've actually added on close to 100 new seats.
Wow.
And what we've also seen is a significant, we've seen a change in the type of inquiries that are coming through or services that are required. There's a lot more requests with regards to e-commerce and back office work. And you know, with many with what's happened with the pandemic, many companies are keen to build greater flexibility and redundancy into their operations, and that's probably the other reason why we're seeing an increase in the number of inquiries coming through. They're trying to manage their risk better. So yeah, significant growth for Centacom, which is great.
Yeah, congratulations to this space. Fayaz, customers, and you touched a little bit on customers, but in terms of employment, what has it been like in your company? Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks once again, Fernando. So, in terms of customers, I think as expected, we saw a little drop in the number of clients as the pandemic hit last year. And then we changed our strategy, and we started putting in more different platforms to use for marketing and all that. And then since then, I think we have seen growth in the number of clients. So I think we have onboarded about 5 to 6 new clients, and on top of that, we have seen from our existing clients, we have seen more or different job roles that has been expanded. So generally, the drop that we saw initially has already been recovered, and then we have gone past that those numbers. And in terms of staff, I think we initially saw about a 20% drop in the number of team members we had, and then after that we have seen a growth of about 50%. So net off, I think we are better off by about 30%, pre-pandemic to what we have now.
Okay, thank you very much. This one's for you, Brad. In terms of your current services that's in demand in this sector, has anything changed in terms of the extra services that you provide from pre-pandemic to post? Have you had to change anything in terms?
Yeah, great question, Fernando, and that's probably the great news story that I really do want to share with everyone, because prior to the pandemic, as I said before, we were more probably on the reservation side of things. We did some back office, but it was mainly kind of very focused on that tourism industry. But since then, where we've seen the growth and the roles is very, very diverse. So we did have an existing client that they've grown over the time. So they're in the labour hire, HR recruitment areas. So we're doing recruitment and payroll processing for them. Some of the new ones that we had were like property maintenance company up in Darwin. So we're doing all their finance and operation support. Medical. So we're doing appointment setting for the medical industry and also operation support in that space. Pharmaceutical. So we've got a team that are contacting all the pharmacies and selling new innovations to pharmacies around Australia. Tourism, it's slowly coming back with an airport transfer company we have. Manufacturing, we've got a client in the manufacturing industry doing sales support. Property development, a company in Queensland, so from a real estate side of things. One of our new clients that just came on board, we just started this week actually. They're in the fashion industry where the team are actually doing tagging, what they call tagging. So it's all on. So when, for example, when you want a ladies jumper and someone Googles ladies jumper, someone's got to put all of that tagging in place. So a ladies jumper comes up and not a men's pair of jeans or something, so that's all. So that's all now being done, out of Fiji, So
Wow.
yeah, so some of the other virtual receptionists, and then we also we have one client which is in the construction and insurance industry in Australia. So they're our largest client, and they have actually taken their whole back office and planted it straight into Fiji. So they do a number of different roles. So
Wow.
so I think Faiz touched on it before. The diversity,
Yeah.
it's endless of where we can go with it. I often use the analogy of as long as we are doing that role here in Fiji in a back office environment, we can do it for someone else overseas. So, and probably the big game changer, and if you want to find some sort of positive out of the pandemic, was the fact that our clients understood, or Australian businesses, and businesses all around the world for that matter, but obviously Australia is a big focus for us in general, but is that they saw successfully how you can work remotely. So now they're sitting there going, okay, if I can get my team to work remotely within Australia, why can't I just get them to work in Fiji instead? And for example, if your head office is in Sydney, you might have a branch office in Adelaide or Perth, so it's the same distance. So you might as well have one in Fiji, right? And you're going to be able to get it at the fraction of the cost. So yeah, I see amazing opportunity for this industry. I mean, I first started in it in 2017 after 30 plus years in tourism.
Okay.
And luckily for me, of course, that I did do that, because otherwise my tourism business would have been under a bit of stress. But yeah, look, it's very, very exciting to see the different roles that we can offer.
Thank you, Brad. That's exciting news, and I suppose for everyone that's listening in, looking at the scope and opportunities that's available in this area is amazing, and you can only grow from there. And this one is for Carol, and the pros and cons from working at home or working in the office, the hybrid model, things you had to change. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
First of all, I just want to say that the industry has proved to be, quite resilient here in Fiji.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned before, it's an industry that has continued to grow during the pandemic, as you've heard from Brad, Fayaz. So in terms of working from home versus working from the office, what we're doing is we've been operating a hybrid model, which has a percentage of our people working from home and a percentage working from the office. Some of the challenges that we've faced with working from home has been the electric outages that we've had recently over the last couple of months, and initially when the lockdowns happened, we had about 100% of our people working from home, and so that proved to be quite a big issue. Since then, we've started moving people back into the office, but some of the we've only started moving people back that have been vaccinated.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of other challenges has been, basically trying to manage people we're trying to put people in bubbles and trying to manage them that way, from the time they get into their taxis to be picked up, transporting them to the office, trying to keep them within that same bubble, changing the way they've had, they have their meals. We now have them, eating from their workstations instead of from the cafeteria or from their breakout rooms.
Right.
So yeah, it has been quite challenging. But again, I have to say that, we've been pretty resilient, and we have not seen any major impacts to the service that has been provided.
Okay.
I just want to, we've had a lot of support from MCTTT in terms of approvals to allow us to work from the office as well. So that has been great as well.
Oh, thank you. Okay. We'll now look into the youth that are working in this sector. What's the average percentage of youth working in this sector? This question is for Mano, and then I'll come to you, Fayaz. What's the numbers like?
Yeah, thank you,
Fernando.
Fernando. In terms of the, in terms of the, in terms of the proportion, I guess Fayaz will be in a better position to give you the exact numbers. But it's fair to say that the bulk of the employees are under 30.
Wow.
The one thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is that it's the type of work that these young people are getting is actually for some of them it actually is international standard type of work,
right?
Because they're essentially working offshore for offshore customers, but from Fiji. So again, if you look at the population data, I think if I'm not wrong, 69% of the population is under 35 or something, and so that and with employment as it is in Fiji being a challenge at the moment, and it's certainly an issue that needs to be addressed. The BPO sector sits right in that sweet spot, right? In being able to employ our young people. And it's I'm not from the BPO sector, but certainly the operators can attest to this. The BPO industry is like an exciting industry. You're not sitting around in boring offices, just ticking boxes, that kind of thing. There's an energy around working in those spaces, and it really attracts youth to that kind of environment. Some of them do songs at midday or stand up and do exercises. So that's the kind of lively, vibrant environment that exists. And I think the most important part for me is just the level of skill you're inculcating an industry can offer to our young people. And obviously they build through their career, maybe move on to other things later. But the grounding and the training is quite worthwhile. And maybe I'll hand over to Fayaz just to sort of touch on the stats. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, thanks, Manwa, and thanks, Fernando, again. So like if you're looking at the stats in the industry, I think it is, as Manwa said, it is a very youthful sector where, we, even for example, at Gramos, we like 100% of our staff are below the age of 40.
Oh.
So, the technology and how the BPO industry actually works and operates, I think it is quite attractive to this sector as well. And they, they find it very, it's kind of, like the same era for them, like, because what we work is quite like, more like international standard. And the facilities they get in terms of the remuneration packages they get and the access to like if they are working with like softwares or the technology they're using, how they the platforms they use to like communicate with their clients and all that. So this is quite modern actually, like it is in line with like today's technology, which is something that may not be like same in other industries. I mean, like I'm not trying to like downgrade or anything like that about other industries, but like they are more into, like they can compare themselves basically working for an international organization. That's how I'd say it. So I think that's why I think we are able to attract like that age group more.
Okay. Like if you look at the age group in terms of the skill sets and training, and this is an area that is developing and potentially has a lot of opportunities in terms of a choice in a selection for an academic area of study. Do you think they should be considered?
Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, because, and as we have seen and discussed previously, that there has been a diverse, like inquiry on the services, like that we can do. So like if we combine the industry together between the players that we have got at the moment, I think there's an opportunity for every skill set that will come out, like from our universities or from our colleges in Fiji. So like it is not. It's not just like where people used to say that it is like a call center where like you're taking calls or making calls. It is not the same anymore. Like we have diversified so much that we kind of provide every service that may relate to any business. So there's an opportunity for almost everyone, like that is there, like in the universities around Fiji. And I think like aligning a little bit with what we do in terms of like because of like the growth that we are forecasting, like aligning the education system a little to what we do, I think we'll just add more value and increase the opportunity for those graduates as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Brad, can I come to you for this one? Protocols and the importance of vaccination. How has that worked in your organization?
Yeah, so obviously, we've had a very successful campaign with our vaccination so far without, the news that came out last night. That's going to be obviously a bigger help. But out of the 97 team members, we've currently got 89, so I've got 8 to go.
Okay.
So it's been a very successful campaign. It's been originally most jumped on board straight away, and then we sat down only over the last week and a bit and just had one-on-ones and just an open discussion. It was not a you must do this. It was just an open discussion of why.
Okay.
And why they didn't want to do it, and also I suppose we then just gave them a little bit of an insight of, because it's amazing how, like, we as business owners, we all watch what's happening obviously very closely, but it's amazing how a lot of people don't keep an eye on what's happening on a daily basis. So, so we gave them a bit of a feel of what's really happening out there now in Fiji. And, it is quite frightening about, the cases that are happening daily and obviously the subsequent deaths. And then we delved into what we're seeing from our clients' point of view. And it's amazing how quick it's changing, right? And what did happen, obviously, with what's happened in Australia and particularly in New South Wales, or Sydney currently at the moment, has probably played a little bit to the benefit of Fiji, because now companies, we're finding, our clients are now saying, well, we want vaccinated teams. So our new client that just joined us this week that does the tagging, that was a question that came out in the final interviews last week. Are you vaccinated? Because if you're not, I need you to be if you're going to join the company. And then we had another client that has a team in Fiji. Their main team's in Fiji. Then they have a team in Australia and the Philippines.
Right.
And they've rolled it out across the board that it's now mandatory for everyone to be vaccinated. So that was part of that discussion. And I said to the guy, luckily for us, the client that wanted to be mandatory, there was only one that we needed to get vaccinated. So that was a good problem. But it was really interesting. Then we sat down and said, look, I need to know, because if you're not prepared to do it, I need to now start talking to the client about how we need to replace you in your role, because at the end of the day, it's going to come. And just as a reminder that if you lose your job here because of this vaccination situation, you're not going to get another job ever in Fiji, because it's going to be mandatory. In the end, all employers are going to be requesting that their staff are vaccinated. So that were like, it really, as I said, it wasn't meant, or I certainly didn't push it. I wanted them to make the decision. But yeah, we had a really good turnaround the last couple of weeks.
Okay,
so.
Great. Okay, very, very quickly for everyone on screen. My question to you: if you've been vaccinated, give me a sign with how many fingers on the amount of vaccinations you had. Is it 1 or 2? 2. Okay, I've had 2. 1. Okay, almost there. Okay, we've got some questions coming from Facebook, because you're all exciting and everything. The youth are asking, what sort of employment opportunities are there right now in this industry? And is there any right now? Because employment is quite key.
Well, I haven't had a chance to speak, so I'll have a crack.
Okay, go ahead, Anthony.
It's a huge opportunity, and in fact, we've got to the position where we've got waiting lists of people ready to bring on, because our recruitment drives have been so strong, and the responses. So there's wonderful opportunities. So I would keep an eye out on our websites, all of our respective websites, Centrecom, Brads, and everyone's got their own businesses, but look at our individual websites and our Facebook pages and our LinkedIn pages. We advertise our jobs on all of them, and there's a lot going right now and a lot in the pipeline. So this is it's growing at an incredible rate, and a tribute to all the Fijians. But yes, please look out. Please come and apply for a job. And tertiary education is very important. I have to say that that is a benchmark for us. It is something that our clients are wanting. And luckily in Fiji, it's pretty standard. Most of our applicants will have some sort of tertiary education, but I'm encouraging all those young people out there that are aspiring to the industry to continue on with your tertiary education, because it's a baseline for us, it's a baseline for our customers in Australia. And I also encourage those stakeholders on board here now that have some influence with government and the education system in Fiji, which is fantastic, to really focus in on the call center and ICT industry with university courses that are specifically absolutely geared towards it, even called bachelors of call centers, whatever. But accent training, diction. I mean, we've got good accents, neutral accents in Fiji, but it's something that is standard in the world, that you tailor the way you respond with your English and so on to the kind of clientele that we've got. For us, it's Australia, New Zealand, which is mainly. So I'm encouraging the education of those in power in Fiji to waste no more time, if that's the case, to get in there and pump up those university courses specifically tailored to call center work. So that's what we need right now.
Okay, encouraging. And anyone else?
I think Fernando, just to add on there to Anthony, also keep a watch on My Jobs Fiji as well. It has been quite interesting, as well as since we have adapted to it, apart from the websites and the social media platforms. Keep an eye on that as well. There's the opportunities are advertised over there as well, those who are watching us. So we've got a lot of opportunities coming up as we continue to hire people. So in various areas, like from accountants to admin people to people processing insurance, or vetting loan applications, and many other areas. So just keep a watch, and all the opportunities will be available there.
There's another question from Facebook. I know it's an interesting one. In terms of age brackets, are there any certain age brackets? I know it's a question that people will ask. Someone's asked it. Is there any specific age bracket you're looking at? Not that I'm 20 or anything, but is there any age bracket?
I can answer for our side.
Okay.
No, we don't really look at a specific age bracket. Actually, we try to diversify it. We've got also, like the other said, a large younger workforce, but I think that's general in Fiji. But
Eric.
no, we also have people in their 40s and 50s on our side, and
Okay.
If we're recruiting now, that's not necessarily a bad thing to have. Sometimes it's a benefit. It's people that have grown-up kids that no longer need to arrange for babysitters. So they are easily available. So sometimes it can definitely be a benefit for also people of an older age range.
Okay. Anyone else?
No, I
Sharon,
think
the same thing.
the key thing here is to match the requirements, the service requirements with the skill set of the person.
Okay.
So that's what we focus on, getting the right person through the door the first time instead of managing the wrong person.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
Just add on to
Thanks,
that,
Brett.
Fernando, and probably after what Carol just referred to there, like to give you a classic example of that, we've got one client in the medical industry that are a psychologist and psychiatrist firm in Australia, quite a large one in Australia. So we have a team of about 5 or 6 doing their appointments and basically acting as a virtual receptionist. And the 2 of the team actually studied psychology. They got their degree, they left university, and of course couldn't get a job in what they'd been studying. So as much as they're not psychologists, that they're working in the industry. So it was just a beautiful connect that you could get 2, wonderful kids that came out of university, all degreed up in what they love, and to be able to put them in a job that they've been studying for or an industry that they've been studying for was really, really nice to see.
Nice. That's very encouraging. I mean, the fact that they could use that skill in that space.
Correct.
Yeah. In terms of Fiji, why Fiji and not the Philippines and India? That is another question that's from Facebook. Everyone's on Facebook.
One of the things that we've seen in Fiji is the resilience that we can offer here.
Okay.
And that has been even before the pandemic. I mean, cyclones like Winston, we were still continuing operating, and we never dropped one call because of any of those events. Then the pandemic is a very different challenge than the cyclones that we maybe are more used to. But the fact that we were able to continue without a single minute of downtime is something that both the Philippines and India just cannot say, that they've arranged that as well. So even with power cuts, we're able to continue with our own generators. We are very nicely assisted by the government. Being named an essential service, it means that we can continue to operate, and we get curfew passes if our buses can pick up our employees. So those are a few things that I don't think they can offer in India and the Philippines, and why they've seen a lot of outages on those sides. And that is one of the reasons why clients are now, maybe they're not canceling their entire contract in the Philippines, but they're trying to establish this backup. And this backup that is now going to be in Fiji, we know from ourselves and from the companies that we have here that we'll be able to impress these companies. And instead of the Fiji Islands being the backup, in the end, we want to make the Philippines the backup, and we can be the main ones.
Thank you.
But that's just going to be us to prove ourselves in order to make sure to claim those businesses for ourselves.
Well, it's a bit of a boulevard nugget to everyone that's watching.
Yeah, hey, can I just add on to that,
Yep.
Fernando? Because I can actually talk about 2 case studies from our clients that are currently working in both, well, they're actually working in Australia, Philippines, and Fiji.
Okay.
And in both cases, they've started with the Fiji team, and very, very quickly, the Fiji team started to outperform the Philippines. And one thing with the Philippines, it's very different to Fiji. The Filipinos are very subservient, so they'll just tell you what you want to hear. Where the Fijians, being the nature of the Fijians, will start, if they see something wrong, they'll start going, hey, this isn't right, you know, and they'll actually challenge it a little bit.
Right.
Where the Filipinos just say, yes, no matter what, can you do this? Yes, I can do it, you know, without going, well, wait a minute, we need to work through how I'm going to do it. But that outperformance and those 2 clients both have now decided that as they're moving forward, the Philippine teams, it's exactly what Eric just said. The Philippine teams, which used to be number 1, are now becoming number 2, and Fiji's becoming the number 1.
Wow, that's great news.
And
Okay.
if I could just also add that previously there was more focus on cost, whereas now the focus is on quality because of customer expectation. And, you know, from our experience, you know, with the clients that we've been dealing with, you know, what we're hearing is that, you know, the quality that's coming out of Fiji is much better than what's coming out of the Philippines in most areas.
Great. Customer retention is very important, I suppose, in all areas of business. What are the benefits, if I'm looking for employment in this space, what are the benefits do BPOs offer? Eric, I'll come to you quickly.
Sure. It's very much a career entry point that we see. For example, both Mohammed and myself, we started with MindPro as agents on the floor, answering the calls. And throughout time, we worked ourselves to team leaders, trainers, and now we are both the general managers, one for the day and one for the night, of the center. So, and actually, that's not only our center in Fiji, but we've got 2 other locations, and it's exactly the same. It's people that work themselves from the agent all the way up from team leader to trainer to managers, and it provides a lot of opportunities with the international clients that we've had and that we have. There's a lot of international travel that can also happen. For example, at one point, our expertise became so great in Fiji that one of the Fiji trainers, who was under 30 at the time, went to Germany in order to teach a class of about 30 people at a time in a continuous 6 months. So that's just an experience that you can get because you're in this international sector. Your view is actually outside of Fiji, but starting in Fiji. So I think that it opens a bit up the world for a lot of people, I'm thinking.
Brad, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I just add on to you know, what Eric said was absolutely so true, and I think it's that exposure on an international scale, in terms of the training you're going to get, the systems the clients use, how those systems and processes are not just the system, but how they continually get updated and keep you at a high level of your performance. Exposure to new innovations in businesses that are happening, you know, overseas. Learning about other industries outside of Fiji. Like we've got some kids that they came straight from school, straight into the workforce with BTR Fiji. So they've never worked for a local company, so to speak. They've only ever worked for an international a client type thing. So I think that you know, the opportunity for the learning is, you know, we've got one. If I use one example, we've got a girl, one of our finance girls that's doing finance for one of our clients, and that she continues to say, like, she can't believe how she's just upskilled to what she was doing here in Fiji. Now she's doing it for our property maintenance company up in Darwin, and she's just, you know, she's in a team of about 10 people, you know, in their finance team. So, you know, what they're learning and the growth that they can get in their skills is amazing.
This is so encouraging and gives a lot of hope to opportunities for the young people.
Yeah, and just to add on to what Brad mentioned, there's a lot of clients that have quite a lot of interaction with their teams in Fiji, as Brad just said. So it's not just us, the bosses, that they've got that exposure to, but as Brad mentioned, they're almost embedded in these other teams, and they're getting, they're learning directly from the managers, and even in some cases CEOs of Australian companies that have their direct interaction with them. So yeah, like
a lot of the staff are in the uniforms of the clients, so they feel like they're actually part of the DNA of an overseas client and that company.
Nice.
Yeah, the BPOs are an extension of the clients. So the structure that they have in Australia or New Zealand is the same structure that's been followed here in Fiji.
That's great. In terms of operation across your various companies, have you already gone into a 24-hour service, or are you currently working in a COVID protocol structure, so to speak?
We've always been 24, and luckily,
Okay.
and luckily, the Fijian government has been very supportive in giving us exemptions as essential services. So,
okay,
thanks again for that support.
Great. Vaccination, as we mentioned, was very important, and it was great the news mentioned through the broadcast last night by His Honourable Prime Minister about vaccinations across Fiji and employment sector. What are the percentages like of vaccination levels in your various companies? How far away from full vaccination, if you must call it, are you in terms of your various teams? Let's start with Fayaz, then we'll move across the various screens we have. This new world that we're living in.
Okay. Yeah, so thanks, Fernando. For the first jab, we are already past 60% of our employees, and we are already above 20% for the full vaccination. And I think, yeah, as you mentioned, with now, the announcement by the PM last night, I think, well, there's no two way about it. So definitely, we're looking forward for 100% vaccination by or before 1st of November.
Okay. Brad?
Yeah, I mentioned before, so we've currently got 89 out of the 97 vaccinated.
Okay.
I don't
fully vaccinated?
No, sorry, I was going to say, I think it's only, I would suggest it's probably about 10% of that would be full.
Okay.
The rest, the main hit where we got the majority of the first was about a month ago. So we're probably a month or so, 4 to 6 weeks away from having them all completely, because I believe it's now you don't have to wait the full 12.
Yeah.
So, we'll make that can be the choice of the employee. If they're happy to do it at 8 weeks, they can. I know personally I will. Okay. But yeah, no, I'm really proud of the team. We've, as I said, we've done it more of a consultative way than being a you must do it. So I'm really glad they've come up. A few more to go, but they're seeing the reason, and they're very, very scared about what's happening, and so they should be.
Yeah, the numbers in Fiji of the infection rate is nothing to take for granted. No. You almost have to assume in this red zone, this containment area of Suva, that the person next to you could be contaminated.
Correct.
Yeah? So
correct.
So at Lindis, Mr. Kamikamiza, what are your numbers like?
Yeah, thank you, Fernando. Like at the moment, it's about 75% first jab.
Okay.
Bulk of us had jabs around June. The second jab percentage is a bit lower. Probably, I think we're lucky if it's 5%. Okay. But certainly by August, the bulk of the people will go through the second jab. Right. We actually volunteering our company space so that the Ministry of Health can come to us and administer the jab, just to speed it up. And for those colleagues of mine that are in the zone, we'll reach out as well so they can come as well.
Great. Carol?
We're probably similar to Manoa, where we've had close to 75% of our people vaccinated. And again, the majority of them have been vaccinated in June. So we're looking at, have had their, first vaccination in June. So we're looking at, most of them having been fully vaccinated by the end of August.
Okay. Eric?
We are at 61% for the first jab at the moment.
Okay.
And I believe it's about 8% for the second one. But it was also for us in the beginning of June that we had the drives at our office itself. So yeah, those are coming in the end of this month will be for the second jab. Yeah.
Okay. Anthony? Oh, you're all.
Yeah, with Carol. Carol's, I think.
Okay.
That,
Okay. Sorry.
Sorry.
A question for this. I mean, like we're all doing this COVID protocols and working it through our new normal and life that we have to work through right now prior to becoming fully vaccinated. Would your organizations change the way of would the protocol still be in place, or would you amend it slightly in terms of, I suppose it's OHS, if you must look at it like in that sense? Would you consider that? Like the wearing of masks. I mean, like if someone comes into the office with the flu, would you say, okay, if you got the flu, you got to wear a mask? Oh.
Yeah, I would think. I mean, we haven't really. I think we've been moving so fast that we haven't really sort of taken that thought process. But now that you've brought it up, yes, I think it's really brought into focus. We've all become sort of armchair epidemiologists and sort of understand now the risks. And I think before we were a bit lax about it. Someone came in coughing and sneezing, and it gave the flu to 5 people around them, and that kind of productivity that you lost, and also the person being sick and all those things that go with it.
Yeah.
I think it's brought that into focus, and the tolerance level won't be there now for that. Probably partly because you don't know if it's the flu or something else, but also just that, hey, the flu can knock you out for just, similar amount of time and be just as devastating for the other people you give it to.
Exactly.
So, I think that we haven't really put our mind to it. It's just a mask. It's emergency stations. Everyone has to wear a mask. But moving forward, I'd say that it will tighten our protocols around all transmittable viruses, flus, colds, and so on.
I mean, when you think about it, it was just the flu, but this flu is really not the whole world off its socks, in a sense, I mean, and prior to this, if you had gone into the Asian continent, some of the countries there, prior to COVID, everyone was walking around with a mask, and you being a tourist, you were saying, "No, why are they wearing a mask? Why are they wearing a mask?" And now we're all wearing masks, even inside a bank. Lord forbid. Okay.
And Fernando, I could just add that security is a huge component of our client requirements. Safeguarding customer information, and so the preference is always going to be that we work out of the office. So we must do all we can to ensure that we can continue to do that.
And how do you, in terms of mitigation strategies, how do you ensure? I mean, it's something you can't plan for in a sense, but knowing what the lessons learned from what we've gone through now, what sort of strategies do you think you might consider going forward if this does pop up again?
Well, I mean,
Lord forbid the Lambada thing comes this way. I mean, what sort of things are you looking at?
With government coming out last night saying that everyone has to be 100% vaccinated. I mean, that's certainly going to help. Some of the things that we've changed on our end, like for example, with interviews, right? We're trying to do interviews online rather than bringing people into the office.
Right.
So that's something that we're probably going to continue to do.
Right. It's, I mean, like most of your companies have your own transport mechanisms in place, and picking staff from home and to going to and from work. What has been the protocol for them if they'd like to go shopping and using public transportation? in terms of affecting their bubble? What are sort of some of the things you looked at in that area?
I might jump in there, Fernando. So they're in their own bubble at the moment, as in during the working week, right? So,
yep, right.
And during the curfew, while the curfew's on, a little bit stricter, obviously, in Suva than it is over here in the West, but it's certainly, most of our team don't finish until by the time they get home, the shops at the curfew's in place.
Right.
But they're certainly in a bubble from when we pick them up directly from their door and bring them to the office and then take them back to home. So it's something that, and we've been talking about it just with our growth anyway. We're looking at introducing vehicles or staff transport. So it's something that we're factoring in for the future now, regardless, even when this pandemic's over. We obviously weekends we encourage that they don't, go out. Try to stay at home.
Okay.
One thing that we introduced, which has been really successful for us, is we have our own in-house BTR Fiji contact tracing form that every employee is required to fill in prior to starting their shift. So that goes through, their contact details, where they've lived, travel history since your last shift. So where have you gone? Did you go to, wherever you've been, before that shift started? Has anyone in your bubble been sick? Has anyone outside your bubble visited or been with you? Has anyone in your household been in an area of interest? And then also any MOH staff that have come to any of the contact tracing teams. So nothing's perfect, but we try our hardest to take it to that absolute, nth degree of getting it right. And I can use an example. One time there was about, 3 or 4 weeks ago now, but there was a false alarm announcement that there was a red zone in Lautoka. And so very quickly, and the staff member came up and said, I've just heard that in my area there's a red zone. So we very quickly then went and had a look at the details that we had on file for him over that period to make sure that he hadn't been, where he'd been, had he been out in the community. And we could see very quickly that he hadn't. So, from a management point of view, it was really strong, to be able to be in that position. And as it turned out, it was a false alarm anyway, so it wasn't a red zone. But it just goes that it went to show that if it was, we're in a little bit of control to know, okay, we know where that person's been, quickly get them out of the building type thing.
Right.
Also, you need a requirement that everyone that comes into the office has the contact tracing app on their phone, and I think that's going to be moving forward. We continue to have that requirement in place.
That's true. In terms of numbers for the industry, what sort of employment numbers are we looking at in the BPO space? How many employees does the industry employ?
We think right now we have approximately about 5,000 people employed in the industry.
Wow. And opportunities for growth?
So the target that we're working towards is we're working towards 10,000 people within the next 5 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, maybe I'll just, if I can just jump in here and make a plug for my company.
Sure.
We actually doing a business park out at Kalambu.
Right.
And essentially that's to create a business park that actually is able to cater for the needs of the BPO sector and ICT sector,
right.
In a kind of a enclosed environment. And we believe that that's certainly a major opportunity for the industry. And I think government's talking about another center in Navutu in Lautoka.
Okay.
So if these two things happen in terms of looking forward in the industry and looking forward to in terms of infrastructure, there's some support systems coming that can really boost the growth of the industry.
Right.
The other thing I thought to mention Carol's talking about 10,000 in probably organic growth, quite aside from what we think we'll generate once the park is up and running. It'll take about 8 years to complete.
Okay.
Roughly speaking, based on the floor space, 15,000 workers in 8 years. So, you are
one shift?
in terms of the total number of people that can work.
Okay.
And if people work, that's just in ordinary hours, and if there's people that work overnight, potentially it can increase. So the future of the industry is actually very promising. And again, if Fiji is looking for industries that will diversify the economy, the BPO sector is right underneath our noses. Yeah.
Okay. In terms of third-party support services, what sort of encouragement could you give to third-party support? Like in terms of, I mean, we talked about staffing and having a secure bubble. I was thinking of, okay, if staff cannot go out and do their shopping and things of that, if he had supermarkets and things of regard, provide grocery support, they just give their shopping list and things of that. Do you understand what I'm saying? So basically, from the office, everything comes to you and you are safely in there and to your bubble back at home until we're fully vaccinated as a country. Would you think about something like that currently? Or do you still do that logging of staff movement that you currently do?
So from our staff, they're not allowed to, they don't leave once they're in the office. So all food gets delivered at the moment during the day.
Okay.
So once they arrive into the office, they don't leave the office until they get taken in the vehicle at the other end of the day. So, if anyone's on this link at the moment and sees an opportunity to be able to, create a service of such where, I'm sure that we're all open to listen, because we don't want, because we're in this bubble situation at the moment, we really don't want our team members to be moving around freely, so to speak. So so it's a request. Every morning, all the food gets, all the the cartons of food come on. So, but it's very important that we know what they're up to and what they're doing at the moment, and that's for their safety. It's for no other reason except for their safety and their fellow teammates' safety.
Okay. A general broad question for everyone to respond to is the future of the BPO industry in Fiji, where it is right now. Let's say go 5-10 years ahead. Mano, you spoke about your park, which is great. 15,000 people. I mean, that's great opportunity. Let's start off from the top of the screen, Brad.
So obviously huge opportunity.
Yep.
The other thing to always highlight, so it's not even just new clients that come on board. We expect out of all of our clients that we have a 20 to 30% growth in job numbers year on year. So just within your own current client base, you would expect good, healthy job growth there, and that's not to mention about the other new clients coming on board. Being from the tourism industry, which is highly competitive, and being in this industry and comparing the two is I often liken it to, we are in a very, very big pond and we're small fish. So the opportunity for this country is massive.
Okay, thank you. Fayaz.
Yeah, so I think as Brad said, Fernando, that there's a huge opportunity, and like the outsourcing industry as a whole globally is so big that even if you're able to take like 1% advantage of the whole pie that we have got there, I think we will be like as big as probably the tourism industry. So it is all about like continuing with the incentives like that are there by the government and support from the other stakeholders, and we continue to like develop our infrastructure, and if we all play our parts like and work together, I think there's a huge opportunity in terms of for the industry and for the country, and as well as for our people out there as well who are looking for like job opportunities as well. So like it is not only for people with high skill sets. This industry is almost for everyone, like from entry level, like doing basic work, data entry, being on the call, as far as your English and a bit of computer skill sets are there, to high skill sets as well, from accountants to architects, or like there are various opportunities. So I think there lies a huge potential for whole of Fiji in this industry.
Okay, thank you, Fayaz. Carol?
Well, I think the benefits are massive, but some that just come to mind straight away is that, having a better skilled workforce. Our industry does not pay minimum wage. We pay above minimum wage. So, there's the opportunity for an improved standard of living. Our clients, 99% of our clients are from offshore. So there's a foreign exchange aspect as well, bringing in the much needed foreign exchange dollars. We think that at least in the next 5 years, what the industry should be able to bring into Fiji is approximately close to $500 million.
Wow, that's amazing. Mr. Komikamila. I'll come back to you later.
Yeah, I guess I've probably sort of marketed the opportunity as best as I can. I think for certainly my colleagues that are on the call today, there is an opportunity right in front of us, and the next 2 to 3 years is going to be very critical in terms of capture of the opportunity. Certainly, anecdotally, I'm seeing a lot of inquiries, operators with up to saying, I will start with 10 seats, going up to 200 seats. And that's not only just an isolated incident anymore. So what we're seeing is, and you can see it with the operators as they've shared it, there's the momentum there. And it just ticks all the right boxes in terms of an industry. It helps with our youth unemployment. It creates significant foreign reserves. Just imagine if you're getting 1.9 billion US into your kitty every year in foreign reserves, and the type of multiply effect that has on an economy. The challenge is converting it into reality. As we all have shared, I think, to be fair, the government has been very supportive, and we will certainly work with them, to sort of make sure we do the best we can to capture this opportunity. Opportunities like this come and go.
That's true.
As we've seen, and it's important that whilst the iron is hot, we all pitch in to sort of make the best of the opportunity. So I'm biased, but the opportunity is significant. Yeah.
So you got to really sell our bullish spirit in our different centers.
And Fernando,
to all viewers. Yes, Carol.
At the same time, we got to also protect the industry, and so that's the other initiative that we're working on with the government to ensure that we've got, adequate regulation in place to be able to protect the industry.
Yeah, like that was another question I was about to ask. I'll quickly go to Eric for your comments, please, before I come back to that comment.
Yeah, no, I think there's a huge opportunity. 2 things to highlight for that. We organized an event as the BPO Council last month for Australian companies to basically say, why should I come to Fiji as a company? And that had a great attendance. So that also gives some hope for us to see that coming in. And second, we tend to sometimes focus a lot on the Australian, New Zealand companies that can come here, but in Mindful, we already handle global markets. We have calls from the Scandinavian area, US, UK, Africa, Singapore, from all over the world, basically. So it's definitely not limited to handling Australian and New Zealand customers only. We can deal with the entire world. So the growth here is not limited to anything.
Okay, thank you. Carol, you touched a little bit about the framework and the infrastructure. For new players who'd like to come into this space, what sort of standards and quality does the BPO Council have to ensure that whoever's coming to this space maintains Fiji's standard, which is basically our international brand in the international space? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so that's the regulations that we're discussing with the government to put in place. Right now, we don't have any such regulations specific to the BPO industry. However, to join the BPO Council, companies are asked to provide all the compliance letters for tax, FNPF, and so forth. But the intention is to have a framework in place which I guess sets the benchmarks or sets the standards that people need to companies need to comply with, but also includes like a check-in process and like an audit where we can go back and audit on a regular basis as well to ensure that they're continuing to comply.
Interesting. Primarily, this discussion was centered around creating employment amidst the pandemic. And the biggest concern was driving the need for everyone to get vaccinated. And with the announcement made last night by the Honorable Prime Minister, as I mentioned, the push for everyone in Fiji to get vaccinated, especially the civil servants, by the 1st of November, is basically sort of like the beacon, the finishing line for everyone in a sense. Leading in up to that date, what are the plans for the BPL companies in the country? You will be looking at vaccinating all your teams, yes. What are other things that are you looking at in terms of expanding? Because employment opportunities are basically what is being looked at very seriously. There are a lot of young people coming out of tertiary institutions and high school. As you mentioned, Brad, you had some coming straight from high school. Looking for employment. Where is this going as we end this lovely year of 2021? Start with you, Brad.
Our plans for the rest of the year is obviously, we want to get everyone double vaccinated, and as Carol touched on before, that's obviously for everyone's health and well-being, but it also, a lot of our clients work in a fairly secure environment, so they need to have people working from the office. Okay. Home can be done if it's needed, and we're very resilient with that, and it can happen. But the perfect world is that everyone is in an office environment and in a secure environment. Right. And the only way that's going to happen easily is for everyone to be double vaccinated. So that's the first plan. We're anticipating our growth. As I said, we're just under 100 at the moment. Okay. We would anticipate between now and the end of the year to probably put another 30 to 40 on, potentially a little bit more. We're currently talking to a couple of clients that could lead, between just the two of them, could lead to about 40 jobs. Okay. And they'll want to ratchet. They'll both start with around about 10 and they'll ratchet it up for the rest of the year, which for us, we like that situation. We like to start with a small team, and the smallest fish are sweetest sometimes. So start small and then build it up and really do it right. So look, perfect world, if we can get to the end of the year and I'm hovering between 140 to 150 jobs, I'd be very, very satisfied.
Oh, that's very encouraging. Thanks, Brad. Fayaz?
Okay, yeah. So like Brett said, I think like we have to expand. I mean, like we are already like working on plans to expand, and at the same time, like we are encouraging people. So and once again, the announcement yesterday, it only helps because like we want to have at all times a safe environment at the office as well while we are expanding. So like we are not missing anything, and we're going to like keep following all the protocols that are there until the whole of Fiji is safe, basically, and free of COVID, definitely. So with all that in mind, we are planning to like at least go up to about 100 employees by end of this year. And yeah, we also have like plans and negotiations in place to achieve that. So yeah, I think nothing is stopping us from growing. It's just that like it is all about how we are managing the situation.
Okay.
I think that's more important. And like I know that there are a lot of people out there like looking for jobs. As when we advertise, we see like what we used to see in terms of the number of applications that used to come pre-COVID, and then what is coming, what we see now these days, like from 20 to 30 applications. Now it's jumping to almost about 200 applications. So we know what is happening and what is out there, like in the country. And like if you want to help yourself, if you are without a job, or if you want to help your family members get a job, and if you want to keep yourself and your family safe, I think the most important thing for now to do is get vaccinated.
Thank you. Anthony, I maybe you'd like to say something.
Anthony, you're on mute.
Yeah. Look,
Okay.
the point I was, it's kind of sort of half been covered, but it was being touched on, and that is the change in perception of Fiji in the region, and as been mentioned, around the world. We have the capability to be able to take telephone calls, and we do for clients globally. Obviously, it's more attractive proposition for Australia and New Zealanders because of the proximity and cultural connections, and we've spoken a lot about all that.
Yeah.
But one of the challenges that we've had over the past since we set up in Fiji is awareness of Fiji as an outsourcing destination as well as just a holiday destination. And the typical question we get asked, and we're quite versed on the answer, is what about Fiji time? And which has been heavily pushed by the government as pushing as a Fiji destination, as Fiji as a holiday destination. And I think that's something that has changed now. People will understand. It hasn't just changed overnight. There's still some work to be done, but it's that this is improved awareness forcefully, because Australians and New Zealand companies have had to find alternatives to their traditional outsource centres in Philippines and India and such. But that the story's a bit easier to tell now because the people are there, and it's not just about having a holiday and Fiji time. Or that's a bonus though, if you can ever get to come and visit your call centre team, which will happen in due course. But it's that awareness that's sort of, it's changed very quickly now, and it's very important that the government look at what kind of messaging it can support in industry circles, just as it's done in the tourism, and everyone knows about, they push this Fiji time. What messaging can we be sending out as a BPO council, as a Fijian government, to what's the tagline for doing business in Fiji? Now, I'm not saying we'll come up with it right now, but it's something that we should be workshopping. And I said it's been a big change in awareness, but also now how do we encourage that, push that forward, maybe create a tagline that's around that Fiji is also a great place to do business, not just a place to come and relax. Yeah. So, but no, that's what a big change we've seen, and something that we want to foster.
Okay, great. Carol, would you like to add anything to that?
No, totally agree with Anthony.
Okay.
And the fact that we've started with the BPO Council, we've been running a few webinars together with the Match Board and MDF, and during those webinars, what we're doing is featuring some of the global brands and having them give their testimonials on their experience in, with outsourcing to Fiji. So I think we can do more around that, creating that awareness, not only for Fiji as an outsourcing destination, but also as a supplier of quality outsourcing services. That's going to go a long way.
Okay, thank you.
And forums like this are important for everyone, including each other, for us to get to know each other and to show that we are all friendly competitors, all working towards a common goal. And I think that's not to be discounted. It's important.
Well, like Brad said, the pond is very big.
Yeah, that's right. And we're all growing the pie and we're all sharing in that pie and it's great.
We need to get a piece of that pie. Mr. Kavita.
Oh, no, you're on mute.
Okay.
From our perspective, I guess the challenge is the demand is now,
Yeah.
and building a park is sort of a 2 to 3 year process. Overlaid by the pandemic. So we are looking at ways where we can probably release we have a bit of a real estate where we work, where we're based. So we're looking at potentially creating room in one of our bigger factories to sort of now rather than later. So that's kind of the challenge, because the demand is starting to build now, and we have this challenge of getting things up and running. So we have some options, so that'll kind of hopefully assist in growing the industry. I think the other thing that I think we all accept is just the change in landscape in the way we operate. And it's funny how now we're just doing meetings over Zoom, and for some companies it means saving their travel budget, a significant portion of it. So it'll be interesting once things transition back. Probably the need to travel as much won't be there anymore. Human beings being human beings will come up with all sorts of excuses to try and travel.
I really gotta go.
But that's certainly a massive change. It'll be interesting, for example, to see how the UN deals with their newfound technology capability and their travel budget. But certainly for us, I can talk for us. It's like we never missed a beat. We're still doing business as usual, still being able to connect offshore, and things are moving along. So and to your point about just the environment, the business environment, where we operate, then this overlay of the demands to have protection and vaccination. I think it's going to be with us for some time to come. And so again, each business has to try and change their protocols or adjust their protocols to work. Some customers will just be quite adamant that they won't deal with you if you have zero protocols, as Brad had mentioned. So from our side, we can't start soon enough, and we'll do the best we can to support the industry from that perspective in terms of creating an area where BPOs can come and operate in the business park.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you.
I think we've actually gone 9 minutes past our scheduled time. Not that we're Fiji time. We've actually had a lot of important information to discuss, and I think a lot of those who viewed this Zoom session have taken in a lot of interesting points and great opportunity in this space. Great employment opportunities, ability to work in an international environment while seated here in beautiful Fiji is very real, and getting COVID compliant and getting vaccinated is all part of the process. And I thank you all very much for your organization's contribution to the employment sector in giving opportunities to all the young people, including myself, being young. Jokes. All the young people out there, great opportunity. And it's encouraging the sort of numbers that you're looking at in terms of opportunities for the road ahead, 5 to 10 years and down. So it's basically just keeping that brand strong, that Fijian brand strong, keeping our quality up there, as you mentioned, Carol, and keeping our service delivery always intact. And I know we can do that. We're great in the tourism sector. And Brad, you have a lot of experience in that, and I'm sure that'll bounce off in the committee and everyone that's getting into this industry and space. For now, Levu, thank you all, and I hope you had a good year, Carol, as president.
Thank you. Same by.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
All right.
Levu.
So,
Carol, thanks,
thank you,
Fernando.
everyone.
Hola, guys.
Nakawalewu.
Taka.